morning and welcome to Money Talks. I am Miss Rufo, one of your co-hosts for this episode. I am also joined by student co-hosts Jason Gogan, Liza Armstrong, and Jack Rafferty. Today, we welcome Mr. John Coder, Town Administrator for the town of Northborough, Massachusetts. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the town of Northborough has 15,000 inhabitants with an average household income of $112,000 and a per capita income of $53,000. Zillow estimates that the median home value for the town is $437,000, with a predicted 3.7% increase in the value of homes next year. The town of Northborough has experienced tremendous growth over the last decade. The commercial sector has boomed, making Northborough a destination for shopping, food, entertainment, and of course, education. Northborough is the home to the A+ rated Algonquin Regional High School, the second best high school in Central Mass, and the 13th best high school in Massachusetts, but number one in our hearts. Thank you, Mr. Coder, for joining us today. It is really an honor and a privilege to have you here. And we're going to start right off with Mr. Rafferty to get this interview underway.
So the first question I have for you today is, what was your major in college, and did you ever think you would have a future as a town administrator?
First of all, thank you for having me. I love to come to these types of events, and I'm really interested in hearing the questions and the responses. But I know we got a lot of seniors in the audience right now, and you're thinking about college and what your majors are. Don't sweat it, I guess would be my advice. I went to college as a biology major. I came out with a degree in economics and a master's degree in public administration, and now I'm a town administrator. So what I thought I wanted to do isn't ultimately what I discovered I really loved and where my passion was. So that's one of the things to keep in mind as you go through life is, you go through things, you look at and have these experiences, but until you do something, you don't really know. So no, I had no idea, frankly, what a town administrator was until I was in graduate school. And this is a true story. My advisor pulled me into her office and she said, I told the town administrator in Mansfield, Connecticut, which is where I went to UConn. I'm trying not to look at the Clemson shirt over here. But I went to UConn, and my advisor basically said to me one day, you need an internship to graduate. I told the town manager that you'll be there tomorrow. And I said, I don't want to go work for the town. I don't want to work for the town. What is the town manager and what do they do? I was almost entirely focused on state government because that's where I thought I wanted to work. So long story short, I worked for the town manager in Mansfield, Connecticut. I did my internship there. He asked me to stay, so I wound up working for him for a year. And then from there, it just kept going. I got hooked on it. And the thing about local government, unlike other levels, they all have their purpose, but local government, you immediately have an impact. You see, when you work on something, you immediately see that and manifest itself in your community. And it's very powerful and it's very energizing.
All right, the next question is, what does a town administrator do on a day-to-day basis?
I've been trying to figure that out for 25 years. You do everything. If people have had business classes, if you look at the corporate business model where there's a board of directors, then there's a CEO, and then there's department heads, right? Our form of government is really the corporate form of government superimposed on local government. So your board of directors is your board of selectmen. They set policy. The CEO is the town administrator or town manager. They're responsible for the day-to-day operations. And so basically, I'm responsible for oversight of all the departments except for the schools. Now, obviously, I work closely with the superintendent in the school department, but budgeting, capital planning for things like buildings and facilities. But in terms of day-to-day, I think probably the best way to describe the job is a lot like being a coach, in that my job is to coordinate all the pieces and make them work as a team to accomplish the vision and the goals of the community. And that can take any form. It can take town meeting, meeting with department heads. This is part of the job right here, conveying to the students here in the community what it is that we do, what's important, why we do it, how we go about doing it. So it's a little bit of everything.
So my first question for you is, what gives you the most pride about working for the town of Northborough?
The most pride I get from being in this community is two ends of the spectrum. Most leadership or management positions, there's two sort of real core pieces. There's the technical skills that people have to do the job. I have to know budgeting, I have to know capital planning, I have to know human resources, right? And then there's the soft side of what you do, and that's how you relate to people. It's your ability to establish and maintain positive working relationships, to empathize and to listen to people, to build coalitions, to get things done, to build consensus around moving in a direction. There's 15,000 people, as you heard at the intro. 15,000 people have 15,000 different views of what they'd like to see happen. So how do you go from 15,000 to getting the community to take direct, active steps towards a goal or an objective? So two things I'm most proud of in this community. On the technical side, the town of Northborough has received 8 consecutive national awards for our budgeting. We are held up as an example over the state for great budgeting practices, capital planning, fiscal trend analysis. We go all around the state, Northborough, representatives go around the state training other communities on how to do these things. Because we do that well, every time I drive down a road, my kids think I'm crazy because I'm like, doesn't that pavement look great? Look at that drainage project. But look at the library, look at this building, look at the senior center. Those physical things are a result of the technical skills that allowed them to manifest themselves physically. But on the other end of the spectrum, the thing that I'm really proud of is when I started here back in 2008, the general government departments and the school department wasn't getting along. There was a lot of conflict going on. They were fighting over limited resources. The departments weren't working well together. The boards and committees weren't working well together. Now fast forward to where we are today. We have over a decade of unanimous support. Every budget, every capital project, and every initiative that's gone forward to town meeting. Unanimous support, every member from every board and committee, and 100% success rate at town meeting. Now, I'm always worried to jinx myself because we're heading into town meeting in a couple of weeks. But that's the soft side of the job. And that's the difference between, in my opinion, a good manager and a good leader is someone who can facilitate the soft side of things, making sure that difficult decisions get made, but they're made in a way that people don't walk away feeling like they weren't heard or they were run roughshod over, because that makes people feel alienated and makes them feel like they're not part of the process. And so the physical improvements that have been made to the town, but really the culture between the boards and committees, they always work together. And we don't have that conflict, and you don't see it play out on camera, you don't see it play out in the press, and you don't see it play out at town meeting. That's not the case in many communities, including some of our neighboring communities. That takes more time, energy, and effort, frankly, than to do the technical side of the job. 80% of people can do the technical side of the job. The magic happens in the 20% where the soft skills come into play.
It's great that you mentioned relationship building, because I think a lot of our students forget. They think they're going to go to college and major in accounting and just sit there and do the numbers or finance, but it's that building and that communication that is important
Absolutely.
for success.
There are a lot of studies out there that show the success of a manager is more, their soft skills are more indicative of predicting whether or not they'll be successful than their technical skills. You have to have the technical skills to do any job that you want to do, but at the end of the day, it comes down to whether or not you work well with others, and frankly, whether or not people want to work well with you. And that means approaching every situation as if it's the start of a long relationship, not just an individual battle to be won. Because you can win an individual battle, you can succeed to get a project passed, and then have a lot of hurt feelings that are going to hinder your ability to be successful in the future. And I think that is something that Northborough does really well, and it's what I'm most proud of in terms of accomplishments in the time I've been here.
So my final question for you is, how many employees work for the town, and how do you motivate them?
Well, the general government side of the budget has about 119 full-time equivalents. So full-time equivalents are 40 hours a week. So if you have 2 people working 20 hours a week, they make 1 FTE. So it's about 119 there. There's 269 roughly in the K-8 schools. So 388 employees in the town. How you motivate people, it's different depending on the person and the situation. And here's another little secret to working with people is if you approach every situation with this is how I get things done, and you're not willing to look at the individual and the situation, you're going to have limited success. There are times when you need to be a little bit tougher. There are times when you need to sit back and you need to listen more. And you motivate people really in two ways. One, by listening to them, finding out what they're passionate about, what motivates them, trying to move them into a position where they're able to use those skills effectively. And the other piece is the big picture, motivating people, connecting what they do, connecting a custodian who's cleaning my building to the overall mission and the vision of the community, making that connection for them so that they see the value in what they do and how they're contributing to the larger vision of the community. That's really where the magic happens. I'll tell you a story. Every single person that comes into my organization, even an intern that's going to be with me for 3 months, I insist on interviewing them, and I insist on knowing them, but I also give them the same speech at the end of every interview. And that is, as long as you're here in our organization, every interaction you have with a member of the public or a department is going to either build positive culture and experiences, or it's going to detract from that. And one of the ways you get yourself in trouble with me is if you're negative and you're detracting from that culture that we've all built over the last decade. Negativity in an organization, any organization, Jack, you play team sports.
Yeah.
One negative person can have a tremendous impact on the team. And as a coach or as a team leader, your job is to focus on the positive and get them all working together as a group. It's really no different in a town organization or in a private organization.
All right, and my final question is, how do you make budget decisions, and what do you do when unexpected costs arise?
I have a dartboard in the back of my door, and I usually just, no. How do you make budget decisions? Trying to build a consensus around any decision at all in your private life or in the public life. It's about having the best information you can, right? So you want the data to be accurate. And then you want to have a process that allows people to be heard and for that data to be discussed and for different perspectives and views to come into play. And through that process, you build consensus, right? So for us, before we make a budget decision, what I do for the Board of Selectmen and all the financial boards and committees, every December we get everybody in the same room at the same time. And that's something very few communities do. And we do a trend analysis. We look back to where we've been 10 years backwards. And then we project 5 years forward. And it's in that context that we talk about the upcoming fiscal year. So if people are comfortable with the data, right? If you're not arguing over the information itself, then you can start talking about, well, what does it mean for us and where is it that we want to go? So the kiss of death in the public world, when you go to town meeting, and we're gonna have town meeting in a couple of weeks, right? If somebody doesn't want to do something, they'll usually attack it from two perspectives, either an information complaint or a process complaint. I would vote for that, or I'd be in support of that, but I don't think your numbers are right. Or I don't think I have enough information to make an informed decision. And the other thing is they'll attack it from a process standpoint. Who made this decision? It was made under the cloak of darkness. Where was the public hearing? Nobody asked me what I thought. So if you do your information well and the process well, then the decisions come out the other side, and you're not going to be all on the same page. You have 15,000 people here. They're not going to agree on everything. It's just not going to happen. But when the decision gets made, people who are on the losing side of that decision, they tend to walk away saying, well, I didn't get what I wanted, but at least I was heard, and the information was good and the process was fair. And if you can accomplish that in the world of public policy, then you're doing very, very well. Because when I have people come up to me afterwards and the vote didn't go their way, and they thank me for the information and the process, that makes me feel great, because it means they feel like democracy worked,
So my last question for you is, what is your vision for the future of the town of Northborough?
Well, I'm going to give you the formal answer, and then I'm going to give you my just gut reaction to that. The formal answer is, we're right now in the middle of a planning process called the master plan. Everybody in the community can participate in this plan, and it's about the vision of our future. What do we want to see for open space? What do we want to see for municipal facilities? What do we want to see for transportation? What do we want to see for education? And that's a process that everybody has a right to participate in and should. But then, I look at this room and I look at the people that I'm here with, and I'm so grateful that you guys have had me in here. My vision for the community is that we've built a place that you guys want to stay, that someday you are going to want to raise your own family, and you'd say, I like Northborough, I want to stay and raise a family here, or I want to grow up here. Now, that doesn't mean, I know especially the seniors in the room right now are thinking, I want to get out of here, right? I want to go see the world, I want to have other experiences. And that's fine too. If you go on to other things, when you look back and you think to yourself, that was a great place to grow up. It was a good community. I felt supported. I was safe. I could discover who I was and in a nice environment. That's my vision for the community. I have 2 kids in this school. I raised my 2 children here, and I've lived here for 20 years. And from the day I moved here and the day I started working for the town, that's always been my vision, to make it a place that I want to live. I want to raise a family. Maybe I want to start a business. And just have a community that has that feeling to it, that X factor. You know it when you feel it, right? And sometimes it's hard to articulate. But a sense of community, a real sense of community is, in my opinion, that's the most important thing. And that's the vision I always have in my mind. Everything that I do, and it goes back to the culture and the interactions, am I building that culture for that vision, for that sense of community? Or am I getting a win here, a short-term win at the long-term expense of the relationships and the sense of community? So.
And I think, you've done a great job building community. I think a lot of kids could say, we live in a great town and we have a great space. And look at people are flooding to try to get
Yes.
into Northborough to get houses. So I think you've done an amazing job. We're going to move to the audience for a second.
Great.
There are a few questions in the audience, so Garrett, if you could see if there are any audience.
So our first question comes from Joe Shoemaker.
Yeah, I was just wondering, do you have any advice for upperclassmen who will be entering college soon?
Advice for upperclassmen? This is always a tricky one, but I guess my basic advice that I would say to everyone is, as you try to figure out what it is that you want to do, focus on something that really interests you and you're passionate about, because that's where your motivation is going to come from. I say all the time, when I'm interviewing people, you can pay people to work, but you can't pay them to care. Nowhere is that stronger than teachers. You guys think, who are the teachers that you look up to, that you like to be in class with, right? You get this sense they care about you and they care about what they're doing. They know what they're doing makes sense. Everybody can tell somebody going through the motions. And nobody wants to work with or for somebody going through the motions. So find your passion, follow that. And the other thing is, if you find yourself in a technical field, which is great, don't negate the soft side. It's easy to say, well, I'm going to be an accountant and I'm going to be in an office or a cubicle and I focus on numbers. Don't shy away from the people side of things, because that is very important. Your ability to work and relate to people and to have other people want to be around you, that's going to help you in every aspect of your life. So find passion, but value people and relationships. And if you do that, you'll be successful no matter where you go. That and a couple of dollars will get you a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Our next question comes from Jack Butler.
I was wondering what your opinion on Northborough entering the plastic bag ban was.
So the plastic bag ban was introduced through a citizen's petition, and working with actually one of the students from Algonquin. I don't know if anybody knows this right now, but China has basically taken themselves out of the recycling market. So 70% of the world's recycling used to go to China. They're no longer accepting it. So we spend about $71 a ton to get rid of trash that we generate in Northborough. And so we've been encouraging recycling, because recycling, when you get rid of it correctly, it basically pays for itself. And of course, it has benefits to the environment and the economy in general. Right now, it's going to cost us as much to get rid of our recycling as it does to get rid of our trash. And that's just how the world economy is working in the recycling commodities market right now. But the long and short of it, the answer to your question is, I think the solution, at least part of the solution, has got to be reducing it from the source. How many people have gone in and bought a thumb drive, which is like that big, and you get a sheet of plastic like this, right? And oftentimes it's not even recyclable. We need to start reducing the consumption, the throwaway piece of our economy. And the plastic bag ban, I think, is a good and reasonable place to start. If you read the newspaper a couple of days ago, the state is going to ban plastic bags across the Commonwealth, which is what I've been saying and I've been encouraging our legislators to do. And the reason is you don't want to have individual rules in 351 different communities. Businesses want to understand what the rules are so they can comply. And if you have slightly different rules in every community and you're a chain like a CVS or Stop and Shop, you have to figure out what the rules are in each of the different communities. So that was a long answer to a short question. I guess I'm in favor of the plastic bag ban because I think it's the right thing for the economy and it's the right thing for the environment.
Well, I just want to thank you. We're going to wrap things up, and I wish we could invite you maybe 4 or 5 or 6 times.
I would come back anytime you'll have me.
Very informative, great information for the students as well as the adults who watch this. I want to wish you luck with your big meeting on April 22nd.
Thank you.
And please feel free to come back again. We would love to have you. And I want to thank the studio audience for being so great today. And for everybody else watching at home, please check in for another episode of Money Talks. Thank you.